It's spooky season, which always gets me talking with buddies about the creepy things we've done. I almost never touch on the story though, because it's not one of those classic scary stories everyone likes to share around a few beers. I used to work night shifts at this large manufacturing facility. Night shift was a very small crew, 5 security, and 5 of which is running admin and packing. As admin staff, I sat with security as they'd switch between patrolling and monitoring the cameras. It was usually pretty silent and boring. Now, I'm not sure how the building got its haunted story. No one besides us ever wanted to work at the night because of the rumors. None of us ever had any experiences. No one died there, no crazy accidents happened either. It wasn't destroyed and rebuilt. It was just peaceful and uneventful. But stories always spread, as they tend to do with big, dark, creepy spaces. And it was creepy. It's surrounded with woods, circled with fencing, mostly empty at night, which made it feel incredibly imposing and empty. Creepy motion activated lights inside and out. Sounds carried and echoed. But still, none of us ever had any experiences there, until this. It was around Halloween, maybe a week or two before it. I was halfway into my shift, making it my lunch hour. It was chilly, and I went to my car to grab my bigger jacket and have a smoke break. I was right outside the back door, which the fencing runs closest to. It's maybe 10 yards off the back door. The only light is the motion activated one, and I had to keep making grand arm movements to keep it on. It's all grass and shadows up to the fence, and the light doesn't really hit that far. I was watching videos on my phone, and the light cut out. I sat in the dark a bit, sipping my coffee and finishing my cigarette. As I was finishing, I reached up and waved about activating the light to find the ashtray. But as the light flickered on, I heard a noise at the fence across from me. We do got some animals out there, and they could get startled. It was all explained in my head instantly. But as I stood up, I heard the fence keep slightly jiggling. When I looked up, I didn't see much. The light didn't really illuminate much outside its circle on the ground. I don't know why, but my first thought was to say, "Hello?" When I did, the sound stopped for a moment. I squinted into the darkness trying to adjust. The light went out. There, in the darkness, the moon had a little more effect lighting up the area. The fence started lightly jiggling again, really lightly. As my eyes adjusted better, I saw movement. It looked like a person opposite me, at the fence fidgeting with the links. I thought, this must be a kid trying to spook me. Maybe they were gonna break in and ghost hunt. Some high school kids have done that before, without knowing the building never closed. And we were usually pretty cool with them, poking around as long as they didn't touch anything, and made it fast. So they could tell their friends they lived through it. But that wasn't really common, and this was one person alone. It felt off. I radioed in with my walkie-talkie to desk security. "Hey, we have a visitor out by the north door, behind the fence. I've seen the monitors of the camera feed, and I know this area is totally covered. They'd be able to see the fence clearly." My walkie beeped back, and the voice said, "We aren't reading any movement at the fence. Is it on the tree line?" "Negative. They're fiddling with the fence right in front of me." This all happened in the span of seconds. My cigarette butt was still in my hands, and I just barely swallowed my last sip of coffee. They didn't even have the chance to reply to me when from the fence, I heard this massively louder thrash of the lynx, and all I saw was this figure full on sprinting at me. I made a terribly embarrassing choking noise and crushed my coffee cup against the knob trying to rush myself in. The fence is so close, it's not going to take more than a few bounds to reach me. I pushed myself in so hard and held the knob in place trying to figure the deadbolt into place. The knob was flickering down hard against my hold. I could hear and feel something moving against the opposite side of the door. I radioed back, "Get down here now." But I already heard steps coming my way. The knob stopped moving by the time they got there. It was all over with. Back at the office, the security staff tried to play it off like I was having a laugh about it, like this was a great Halloween joke I played. I didn't understand why they weren't talking about it seriously until I saw the playback. It was just me outside. There was nothing there. My brain couldn't explain what I experienced outside while confronting the video. I immediately thought this was a big goof on me, Maybe they fiddled with the footage and had someone scare me, but they genuinely thought I was the one goofing with them. We were doing that whole back and forth, okay, whose idea was this? Who is messing with who? Until the second time watching the playthrough. We noticed the way the door handle kept moving, even when I moved my hand from it. Both the inside camera and the outside caught it. I noticed right before I panicked and turned to run inside. The fence made a slight jolt as if it was being pushed. There were no holes in the fence or any kind of cuts made where somebody could squeeze through. There were no creepy shadows or unexplainable wisps of smoke or light or movement besides those. Just me in the night jumping out of my skin and running inside. I kept trying to think back to when I jumped, when that figure burst at me, full speed, if the light activated for their movement or mine. I couldn't decide. I couldn't remember exactly, it was so fast. But nobody there wanted to admit anything happened to me. It was a trick of the moonlight, overreactive imagination, and too much coffee, and branches against the train link. No one's ever experienced anything weird here, and it wouldn't just start up here for no reason. I didn't make a fuss. I didn't even want to argue about it. They already thought I was being weird about it. Maybe I was. I went about finishing my shift, but no one used the back door again that night, and it remained locked. The longest employee security was finishing up the shift at the desk, with me in the office. It was before dawn. The morning shift was trickling in the parking lot. He watched the cameras in silence while I typed away. A few minutes before clocking out, he cleared his throat and told me, "I never really liked the North End. It feels like someone's eyes are always on me." It's honestly the most he's ever said to me in the year plus I worked there. The most I've ever heard him say. I feel like that statement held even more weight for that alone. I didn't quit though. I stayed on another 7 months until the company was bought out and they stopped overnight shifts to pile more work on day shifts for less money with less employees. There was never another incident. I never actually went out there again though. I stopped smoking, took my breaks out in the lobby, or wasted time chatting with my coworkers. But I made excuses not to sit outside, to be honest. I feel like a few of us did. I have never before or since had any moments where I felt like my imagination got the better of me, and I truly believe that wasn't the case here. I kept thinking back at the door handle jerking down when I stepped back on the walkie. That had to be proof. I wasn't imagining the whole thing. No one ever brought it up again. And whenever anyone asked about working in the old crappy factory, everybody would just say, "Oh, we never saw anything up there. It's just a boring building at night." I would just smile and keep my side of the story to myself. But I wondered if anybody else was holding stories to themselves. Maybe they'd slip out after a few beers and field a few more questions about the haunted factory. This happened to me about a few months ago. I don't remember the exact date, but I do remember it was between December and January. I'm a 5'4", 17-year-old female student, working part-time at a children's play area. Usually in a place like this, I'm surrounded by happy moments, cherry laughs, and good vibes. I usually host birthday parties, and I never get bad feelings or energy about anything or anyone. I was working on a Sunday, and I closed down, so it was very late. I'm exhausted. I just want to get home. That day, I had to walk. Taxis are expensive, especially as I'm a student, and buses stop running earlier on Sundays. As you can imagine, after dealing with kids all day, I'm exhausted, burnt out, and just zoned out in general. I want to get home and rest, so I open up the Maps app and try to navigate myself to my friend's place. As I was staying there overnight, because I live in a town but my job is in a city, and as I mentioned, buses stop running earlier on Sundays. So getting to the actual horror of that night, it was about an hour and 10-minute walk to my friend's house, and I finished work at 7:30 p.m. Since it's winter, it gets darker earlier, and it's very dark out. As sketchy as it sounds, I had to walk through a lot of alleys and dead silent areas. I'm about halfway to her place, because it was past 8 p.m. at that point. Oh, and not to mention, I also forgot my coat at work, so I was walking in freezing cold. I'm walking down this long road, and I'm checking my navigation app on 20%, and I've got to walk straight down until I have to turn on a left corner. Feeling sleepy, shivering, and exhausted, I almost get to the end of the road, and I get this uneasy vibe that something was not right. I look up from my phone, and to the other side of the road was a man that seemed like he was maybe in his mid-20s, maybe around 5'9". I couldn't really tell. I think he's just average height, approaching a bus stop, and then stopped at that bus stop. I don't think too much of it. I just thought that I'm being paranoid, and usually I get a bit scared and worried when walking at night, so I brush it off. I walked past the man in the bus stop. I felt his eyes glare at me as I was walking past him to turn the corner. As soon as I passed him, I had the strongest gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach that I needed to run. So as soon as I turned the corner, I booked it. I ran till I physically couldn't breathe. I ran for about 3 minutes straight until I decided to turn around. The man I saw at the bus stop was speed walking in my direction. He was a far distance away, but the point is that he was following me. I frantically tried to catch my breath as my stomach dropped when I saw him, but at that moment, I felt so angry. I felt angry at myself, at that man, at life. I started to run. I ran and I kept going until I felt I was about to collapse. It started to feel like I was breathing in thorns. My body was shaking. I started to see lights from a large road with shops surrounded, and I stopped for a minute. I looked back, and the man is standing about 150 meters away from me, and I distinctly noticed him flail his arms up, turn around, and walk back towards where he came from disappointed. At least that's how it seemed. Thinking about it now, it's actually very strange that he was waiting at the bus stop, because as I mentioned at the start, buses stopped running earlier on Sundays. And every time I walk alone at night, I always remember this incident, and I think to myself, what if I didn't get the instinct to run?